Hi and welcome to our program. We are at Gospenen again, but this time to talk with Julie Celina about her new collections. I See You and Never Alone. Let's check it out. Hi Julie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for asking. So what do you want to show us today?
I want to show you my paintings. I did 2 collections that I have exhibited here on Gospenen. Yeah.
And what are the names of the collections?
The first one over here is called Never Alone, and the collection over there is called I See You.
And what's this one about?
This collection, Never Alone, is about how nature is always there to see, hear, and appreciate us if we only let it, and the fact that maybe sometimes we feel alone, but we will, if we go to nature and we let it see us, we will still be able to find love and appreciation.
And do you usually work with this topic?
It is something that I have started to work with a lot more in the past years.
Okay. And why did you start it? Like, what were you doing before and why did you change for this topic?
Well, it didn't change a lot. Before, I mainly painted to show the beauty of diversity that I found mostly in people and cultures, and now it has evolved into also appreciating the diversity we find in nature. So it is just an evolvement. Yeah.
And where does this first interest come from? You studied social anthropology. Is that related?
Yeah, I am very inspired by anthropology and now also ethnobotany, which is like the relationship between people and nature. So again, it's just an evolvement of what I was already inspired by. But yeah, anthropology is a big inspiration for me. And it all started with people. I started painting and drawing people for like 15 years ago.
So it was before the anthropology interest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So you started quite young. Like, was there any particular reason?
I was just always drawn to expressing myself visually, and my mom, she also painted.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice. That's a nice thing. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. And your process, like, how does that work? Is it usually the same? Do you change according to the collection that you're working in?
Well, sometimes I get a new idea, but for the past couple of years it has stayed quite consistent. I think I'm about to change it up again very soon, but for now I usually start with like a meditation. As I said, I am very inspired by nature and plants, and I have like a very big plant collection at home. So I start with a meditation with a couple of plants and see if I get some messages from them. It can be subtle things or more vivid images that I get in meditation. And then I always try to pay attention and listen to what kind of feelings they give me and see what messages I want to weave into my paintings. And then I start collecting a lot of source material from either from pictures that I have taken myself or from pictures I find online. And then I collect hundreds of pictures and put them into like collages on my computer and make these references that I then paint from. And sometimes they change on the canvas when I'm painting, and sometimes I stay quite accurate to what I have created on the computer. But I either start with acrylic painting as the first layer to just put the foundation down, and then a lot of layers of oil paint on top. So I do a lot of transparent or very thin layers of oil paint to to create like mystery and this soft transitions in the paintings.
Why do you choose to work with both? Like why not choose only one?
Acrylic and oil,
for instance. Yeah.
Well, for most of these paintings, I just did oil, but sometimes I choose also to start with acrylic because it dries a lot faster. So if I have to create some paintings quite fast, I sometimes just use acrylic, but I much prefer to paint with oil.
And why is that? Yeah.
Well, it dries a lot slower, and so I have a lot of time to sit and manipulate the paint on the canvas and smear it back and forth. And I just like that process, and also the depth in the oil paint is a lot stronger. You can get very like bold and strong and deep colors with oil paint that you can't really with acrylic.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. And you were also experimenting a little bit before until you decided that oil painting, for now, it's what you like to do. What other things did you try out?
I tried many like of the traditional kinds of paints. In the beginning, I only did pencil portraits, and then I started painting a little bit with acrylic, and I did a whole like collection of very big paintings with acrylic of portraits of women. And then I fell in love with watercolors, and I did that for a couple of years. And then finally I had the courage to also try oil paint because...
Why do you say courage?
Well, for me it kind of felt like the grown-ups medium.
Okay. Is it like so intimidating for an artist to work with oil painting?
It was for me because there's a lot of like different mediums you can put into the oil paint, and there's also this notion that oil paint is toxic, but really it's just the fast drying mediums that you put into the paint that is toxic. But I have found a way to work around that and not use the toxic stuff anymore, so now it's completely fine. But it did take a lot of just research and before I found some things that worked for me.
Okay, so like very aware of the ecological impact of your paintings also.
Definitely. Also because I paint in my apartment, so I don't want to be like smelling all the toxic fumes all the time.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
And about the collections, were you always working with collections, or like because some artists like focus on painting?
I think I started working with collections in 2015 because I just think that it's nice to see. I think the paintings stand out more when they have like brothers and sisters, and I like to create a bigger story, or I can evolve the story of the paintings when I create collections.
Okay, so it's like from different perspectives, or is it like add-ons to the main story?
I think it's just different versions of the same story. Yeah.
Okay. And what other collections did you have? Like what other topics did you work with before?
I did the United Colors of Women. That was my first big collection, and it started in 2015. And I did it while I was also studying. So at that time I was very inspired by like the diversity of different people, and that collection was all about how beautiful. It's called United Colors of Women, so it's only women. It's 10 portraits of women, and it's how beautiful and important every woman is, no matter where she's from, or what the color of her skin is, or her background, or how rich she is. She is equally as important as every other woman and man, if we take it further. But yeah, it was mainly inspired by women.
Okay, and they were all from different ethnicities?
Yeah.
Or was this something that you were focused on mostly?
Yeah, I created like a map, and I made sure to represent women from all corners of the world. Okay. But again, it's only 10 different countries, but that was what I could manage.
And how did you choose the countries? Like, was it a country that you had a particular interest on, like that you studied? How was that?
It depended. Sometimes, well, I did one from India right after I had gone to India, and I also did one from Palestine after I had gone to Palestine, and then every time, if I sometimes met someone when I was traveling, I would ask if I could take a picture of them and paint it when I got back. Or sometimes I just, I had learned about some specific culture in anthropology, and I really wanted to include it in my collection. So I did that with Ethiopia, and yeah, and sometimes I just fell in love with a specific woman and her portrait, and wanted to also include her in the collection.
Okay, and about the models, like how do you usually work when you draw people? Like, do you have a specific person in mind? Like, do you use real people, or like the collages, like you put a lot of people together?
That also depends. Most of the time I find a person and I fell in love with her and paint her exactly like she is, but a lot of the time I also find maybe the face of one person and then the body of another one, or the eyes of one and then the rest of the face of another one. So I just change it up for how I want the mood to be in the specific paintings.
Okay. Cool. And you're traveled a lot, obviously. So is this related to your studies, or were you doing it in your free time and you adapted? Like
both. So I also studied abroad for 1 semester in Nepal in 2019, and that was also a very inspiring trip. But I also tried to travel as much as possible in my free time. And
but is it more like personal need or like artistic need?
It's both, actually. Okay. Yeah, traveling was one of my biggest passions in my teen years, and I used to research a lot about different places and cultures. So it is definitely something that brings me a lot of inspiration, and so I have also been seeking out some different residency options or opportunities. So next year I will go to Panama and Chile for an artist residency. Yeah.
Have you been to South America?
I haven't yet, so that will be very interesting.
Yeah, that's something that you can also use in your art, obviously.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you want to move abroad? Like, you want to live abroad? Like, you don't want to stay in Denmark? I mean, if you take a lot of inspiration from other cultures, it makes sense. Or is it more like, I want to go and check it out and then come back and work on my things?
I think both. In a way, it's hard. Actually, I would love to stay in a different country for a longer period of time, but I want my base to be in Denmark. And also, my partner, he is a high school teacher, so he has to stay in Denmark, and I'm also fine by that. I also like the climate here.
Okay. That's unexpected.
I know it's kind of weird. And I also like the climate in warmer countries, but I like that we have the changing seasons here, and we can see it very clearly. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned your trip to Nepal, and I'm very curious because is that related to your special connection with tea?
With tea, it is.
So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay. Well, I was very inspired by like plants, and then tea kind of grabbed my attention when I had to do my bachelor thesis in anthropology, and I did it on tea and the tea production, and then right after I had done my bachelor thesis, I went to study abroad in Nepal, and for the first week there, I volunteered at a tea farm, and yeah, it just opened up a whole new world for me. And when I got back home in Denmark, I did a little internship in a tea shop, and kind of learned about tea from one of the experts here in Denmark. And yeah, she's super cool. So, and then one new plant after the other started introducing themselves to me, and I've been working with a lot of different ones since then.
Okay, and there was also this, I don't know if I can call it a project, but where you were painting with the tea?
Yeah,
how
that
was that?
When I was in this internship with this tea expert here. She had like Christmas calendar, advent calendar, with 24 different teas. So you would get a little cup of tea, a different cup of tea every day for the month of December. And then every day I saved a little bit of this tea to make a very strong brew of it. And I drew a little woman who were inspired by the feelings that I got from tea, and then I painted on top of her with the tea like a watercolor painting.
Okay. So it was mostly women, or only women?
Yeah, it was only women, I think, yeah.
Okay. And you also have this tea or cocoa ceremony sometimes to get inspiration?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, that is the meditations that I do before I start a collection. Then I kind of just sit down and have a cup of tea or cacao with me, and in that way I can kind of commune with the plants and just ask them whatever I want, and I get very vivid images when I do that of like different scenes from nature, and it kind of always have a very profound message. And so I take that message and put it into my paintings.
Okay, that's really specific. That's really funny. Okay, then maybe we can start to go around the exhibitions. So what can you tell us about these 4 paintings?
These 4 paintings are actually just small studies of 4 of the other paintings in this collection, and I just liked the vibe and wanted to do something a little bit more simple that still conveys the feelings of the larger paintings. Okay,
and were you working with the? Because I also read that you work with the texture and like symbols, kind of like hidden messages, and people can interpret it as they feel. Was this a study for that?
I did these paintings after I had done the other ones. So it was kind of like just a study of the larger ones. But with the messages and the symbols, I actually just put a lot of different things into my paintings, and they can all act as different symbols. So one person might look at this painting and get a specific feeling or message from it, and then another person will come and get a completely different feeling or message from it. So it just all depends on how people interpret them.
Okay, and what about this one, Steward of the Avians?
Of the Avians. Yeah. Well, for this one I really wanted to create this very mystical and misty feeling that I love to get from nature, and I just have whenever I wake up and the weather is very misty, I just get so much inspiration.
Really?
Yeah. I just
Most
love
people
it.
just want to stay at home and do
yeah,
nothing.
I know, but I love it. So I really wanted to also have it in my painting. And also, I like the birds. They are kind of chaotic and free, and I also, for me that's what they represent. And the woman, to me, she's kind of like a mystic. She's able to talk with the birds and the animals.
Okay. So she's really connected. With
definitely.
nature. And you mentioned earlier that you work with layers.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it, like how long can this process of creating a piece be? You also mentioned earlier that you work in a collection at a time.
Yeah, I painted 5 of these paintings at once. And so I start with one layer of this one, and when it is drying, I go on to the first layer of the other painting and so on. So with oil paint, it does take a couple of days before each layer is dry. So it's a good idea to work on several different pieces at once, so that you can keep painting every day.
Okay. And how long did this collection
It took maybe 2 or 3 months to make these 7 plus 4 paintings.
Okay. And was this the main thing that you were doing, or were you combining it with something else? Like, were you putting your all your time into making the collection?
I'm just focusing on one collection at the time.
Okay.
But of course, I also have other things I need to do in a day. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is really nice. This is really nice. And the colors are a little bit. How can I say, not so vivid? Was that also the point?
They are more muted, and I think it just what is naturally coming out of me.
Okay.
I feel like my personality is also a little more muted or slow or just, I don't know, not as bold.
Okay.
So it just what fits my own mood. And in the past I used to make very strong colors in my paintings, and they used to be very bold, and I think it was kind of a little bit of a rebellion against my mom, who always paints very like beige and muted colors, but now I kind of understood that she's got something there.
Okay. And I just remembered this portrait that were like more bold. It was the women's portrait, right?
Yeah.
And you were, something that I also read, it was about giving voice, in this case, to women of color that usually are not represented in a nice way in art. So do you consider that you're like giving voice to the misunderstood or the minorities? Like, are you kind of doing activism through your art?
Yeah, I would like to think that for myself, but I will let other people judge.
Okay.
But I always try to have some kind of like challenge or like challenging message. So for the other collection over there, it's more like we also have to recognize and appreciate people and beings who are different from us, maybe far away, or have less influence or power than us, because we're all connected and a part of the same ecosystem.
Okay. So you're like raising awareness about these topics, more like in a reflexive.
Yeah, I want to do it in a positive and hopeful way, instead of like a judgmental way. So I want to make people realize that they have influence and they can do whatever they want, and they can be the change they want to see.
And how's it been, the feedback so far?
The feedback has been very good. I feel like lately people have been connecting more and more with my paintings, and I'm very happy about that. And especially the people who say that the paintings help them connect deeper to nature, it has just like, oh, I just feel so touched whenever I hear that. That is like my biggest goal, to have people feel more connected to the inner and the outer nature. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super nice. Yeah, I was gonna ask if that was your goal, or if you, because there are people that paint or do their art for themselves because they just need to do it, and sometimes the consequences for other people to enjoy it. Well, how is it for you? Is it like both? I think
it started with just I really wanted to express myself in a visual way, and yeah, it helped me a lot. And then now I also think a lot about what my paintings they can do for others, and I really want them, of course, to be a good influence on others, and for them to maybe feel empowered or connected in a deeper way.
So do you take that into consideration while you're creating? So, okay, this may not be so obvious, so I'll make it more obvious so people can relate, or something like this?
I don't think like that. I mostly just, when I create the paintings, if I get a very strong feeling from them, then that is what I go with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that is nice. Maybe we should go and move to the next one. Quietude.
Yeah, this is called Quietude, and I wanted, so she's listening into a seashell, and I wanted to communicate this childlike wonder that many people can recognize from their own childhood. They wanted to explore and listen deeper than I feel many adults want. So this is an adult listening to a seashell, because I also want us to remember this, that we are able to explore and listen deep to nature also when we are adults.
Yeah, and it takes only a little bit of effort of putting the shell here, and then you can hear everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is quite nice. Do you do a lot of things related to the sea, or is it because Denmark is it has a really big coast? So is that somehow related?
It's not something that I have thought a lot about, but now that I am implementing or putting more natural elements into my paintings, it just naturally comes out, and sometimes I'm very inspired by the sea, and then I put it in. Actually, the painting over there I did in the beginning was the first painting I did of water, and it was very challenging, but yeah.
Because of the inspiration, or because of the process itself?
I just was inspired by the water at the time, and then I planned to make the painting, and when I actually sat down with the paintbrush, I realized that I have never painted the water before. How is this going to go? But I think it turned out okay.
Okay, we will check that out later.
Yeah.
And this one? Is this also water, or like
this
a lake?
Is, well, if you want it to be water, then it will be water. But to me, it's the forest, it's the jungle.
Okay.
And I feel like every time I look at this painting, it has a different message or meaning for me. But again, it's also about like slowing down and appreciating nature, and just taking your time to listen and see, and listen to the messages, listen to the whispers.
Yeah, seems like very fantasy.
Yeah, it is a little fantasy.
That was it for this program. Thank you so much, and see you next time.